White Zeta. Hey again everybody, it's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs from gundam.tk. The new site is up. You've already seen the intro and the parts, but now it's time to turn these parts into that cool looking Zeta 3, the White Zeta. When he's all put together, you're going to see the Zeta Gundam without the Wave Rider armor on the back, and I have to say that he comes across as looking a little bit strange. The legs are purposely left like this, and the arms are like this. The shoulders don't seem to fit on very well. You may have seen that these shoulder parts popped off during the construction. It looks like you can lock them in if you get them on there properly. The looks remain to be seen until you get the whole thing together, but here's what I wanted to point out. If you put it like this, you are able to put the shoulders on firmly if you just get the gray ring that's on the shoulder armor to go around the shoulder socket and then plug everything in. So you may have to pop this up and squeeze everything in, and then it will fit on there firmly, well, until you move it again for the first time. As he spins around here, you can at least get a better idea of the colors. The gray, depending on the light here, the gray on the shoulders and the white, they really do seem offset. And the only other gray that really seems to show up is what would be red down on the regular Zeta Gundam. But the big problem with this, of course, is that it doesn't have its backpack on, which is going to add a lot more gray to offset the white. Those of you who have built the 2.0 probably have had this experience with the legs, where there's just so many moving parts in here because of the transformation, that to get both legs in an identical position can actually be quite a challenge. Now this isn't perfect, of course, but it's at least balanced, so I just wanted to show it off here. But these parts can pop down. These parts here, the ankles, they don't line up necessarily. This part can bend in or not. These thrusters can slide down or up, so you've got a whole bunch of moving factors, and everything has to be lined up just right. And even then, as he spins around from the side, you may notice how far back he's leaning. To actually turn this into a proper version of the Gundam, you're going to take this part here for the stabilizer and attach this on here. It fits in easier than you'd think with a satisfying click sound. Next, you'll attach the armor down here. The first part is going to be step 1, and then you plug that into the side of the stabilizer for step 2. You may have to get this armor out of the way to get it on there, and you're going to hear a click, and this isn't something that's designed to be taken off once it's put on. It's just got that little bit of overhang there that should keep everything tightly in place. As it spins around here, though, I have to say, now that is a nice looking pink and white Gundam. The color scheme is doing everything that it should do here. The light is probably coming across as a little bit too bright here to really see it, but the white and the gray just look fantastic. But it's especially the pink parts down in the feet, the forearms, and around here in the armor. Everything there is looking great. The decals are just different enough from the pink parts to make it seem like it has more colors in it than it does. And where they did bother to put in the yellow parts down here and up on the shoulders, everything looks good. So in terms of looks, it's fantastic so far. In terms of the legs, I haven't got this perfect, and I've sort of done that on purpose. They're going to have to come back and down just because the center of balance is going to change when you add that weight on. But I've looked at the side of the box, and I seem to have everything lined up correctly. The legs are in their down position. The thrusters are covered up by these covers here on the back that you're about to see. So things should be lined up, and they're doing a better job than I remember on the old 2.0 that I built. But still, it's going to be frustrating, and that's going to be a recurring theme throughout this. But if the legs are lame, that upper body sure seems to make up for it. Once you've got a pose that works, you probably don't want to do this, but for the sake of the review, if you pop up the front skirts, you're going to be able to twist the legs back, and they're going to be able to come forward for a 90-degree kung fu kick. And the side skirts are also going to pull up about that much. You could probably cheat them under even more if you wanted to bring the legs all the way out to the side, but I don't think that actually feels very good, so I'm not going to go much further than that. Now, everything is very, very stiff, which is probably going to come undone if you transform it far too often. But otherwise, you've got the rotation here, and the knees are able to bend. No problem getting a 90 there. You might even get more if this wasn't in the way. And, as mentioned, there's going to be a whole bunch of moving parts here. You may have noticed that pull out, and these can change in and out. That's all going to be used for the transformation. Upper body articulation, you're going to have these side skirts, which really do stick up, so I don't think you're going to get too much mobility in the waist. But what I have noticed problems with is that it will often droop off to one side or the other, so that seems to be a ball joint that could use a little bit more solidness. In terms of the arms, they're going to go around about like that until they run into the problem of the armor, but you're going to have no problem getting them up here for the 180, and off to the side, it looks like you can do this, which is actually not too bad considering that this armor up here on the shoulder can be loose or actually fit on properly. It seems to be fitting on properly depending on the situation. Onto the back, where one of the joys of playing a game like Gundam vs. Gundam in the arcade or on PSP or PS2 is just the fact that the way the Zeta moves when it's thrusting. So you're going to have the stabilizer that's going to bend up all the way like this, and these parts here, you may have noticed when I was looking at the front, actually have more mobility than you'd expect because this part here allows it to bend up like that. Don't expect very much off to the side though, because it is locked in place there, and no, really nothing down below, but it's still sort of cool that you could bring it up like this, even though it doesn't look particularly graceful. It's time for Amuro kit comparison, and we've got the Not G3 here on the right, and you'll notice that the Zeta is just as the Universal Century went on, kits got bigger, and the Zeta certainly reflects that. It's got all the things that you're going to need to make the transformation in there. When you add on the backpack and the head, if you fix the V-fin, the Zeta just comes across as being a lot bigger and more complex. Speaking of canon or not, take the high nu as you will as well, but I think that the pink and the blue and the white and the unicorn theme just overall makes these two kits a fantastic addition to your shelf. The high nu, the head is about the same height, the V-fins might just tweak it one way or the other, but actually the shoulders are just about the same, just a slight edge to the high nu, which does have a much smaller stabilizer. But as big as the high nu is, even with his legs spread, the new Gundam still has the height advantage added in the V-fins, and especially if you put in the funnels. Yes, that is still the king of big Amuro suits. Besides White Unicorn and the high nu, this was the other combination, of course, that I want to try. I don't usually do color variations, but this one was too good to pass up. The color scheme here, this looks like a classic Gundam, especially when you add on the shield and you have the forearms turned that way. The size, well, of course, is going to be identical, but the color scheme, the blue, I said that was red earlier on the left there. Incorrect, it should be blue, but there it is, the classic next to the very stylish variation. When you have to buy your own action base, you may not be as inclined to go with strictly aerial poses, but I think the Zeta is, because this comes with it, you might as well use it. So the way it works here is that you'll notice that there's a line here because you can attach on a separate platform here for the Mark II version 2.0. Pop this up, this is on a pivot point here, you can lock that into place, use this attachment down here at the end to get everything in, and as well you'll notice that this sits flat here, but if you bring this forward while this part is up, pardon my hand in the camera there, you can actually have it look like it's launched forward and that the Zeta has just whooshed off into space. I've locked that into place here, brought the launcher forward, you put this up here, you'll notice that this end can attach here in a few positions, and you're going to attach this to the Zeta in two places. Once you go aerial, and this is just a very quick pose, the beam rifle fits into the hand very easily. I've had quite a few other with the manipulators and the pegs that don't work as well as this does. The shield, again, the color doesn't pop, but it's still looking good. And even with a quick, simple pose, just getting them off the ground makes you forget about how unwieldy those legs are, and actually makes you appreciate the Zeta as a very cool, posable piece of master grade, well worthy of the title 2.0. With the design, though, and the way that you have to put the shield on here, you are going to be limited just in the number of poses that you can actually use to bring it across the body to make it seem any sort of protection. Though this pose looks a little bit better when it's on the side of the box. You can notice here that you can use these parts just to create a little bit sort of a dynamic scene there. You could actually pull out the sides if you wanted to do a little bit more. The legs, again, they can move in many places, which is good and bad, but when you got that beam saber, even though it looks small, the pink seems to work again. And with the hyper mega launcher in hand, the shield off on just a slightly different angle, I've got to say, that is one of the most ridiculous looking weapons in all of Gundam. It does come across as looking very, very white, but so far I've had no problems at all with the weight. His upper body did tilt off to the side a little bit, but that was easily fixed, and I'm very impressed with just how easy it is to get such an awkward seeming weapon into the hand. As I attempted to bring it across the body, you're going to notice that getting it under the armpit there is a little bit trouble, and it is going to start to show some weight problems. And sometimes you can go with gravity instead of fighting it, which might be an interesting pose-off up against Wing Zero. In terms of ground poses, you can always just have him stand there with one of the longest weapons in all of Gundam. You can see how much it towers over him even when he's not fully extended. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up my look at the mobile suit mode there. Stay tuned to see the transformation of this into the Wave Rider. Promises to be complex and hopefully not too frustrating. But why don't you let me know what you think of the MS and the video with a comment on YouTube. Always appreciate it, everybody. See you next time. Thanks for watching.